Hello and welcome back to the show. So I'm really excited to be bringing on my guest for today, Christine Blosdale, because she is not only an expert authority coach helping business owners, agents, as well as coaches position themselves as the experts in their niche. She is also a five-time number one best-selling author and an award-winning podcast host herself. So she has helped many business owners position themselves, leverage social media as well as leverage podcasting to build their own brand and really separate themselves from other people as well. So in today's episode, we're going to be teaching real estate agents how to do that, how to position yourself as the expert, as well as how to use some, unique tools that Christine's going to share with us to, better your branding and also better your marketing as well. So Christine, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you here.
I'm very excited to be with you. Thank you so much. And as someone who is married to a real estate agent, this is a great subject. I'm so thrilled to be talking to your audience today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm excited to really kind of hear your take on this and, share a lot of inspirational advice for real estate agents. But before we get started, would love for you to be able to share maybe a little bit about your background because you've done quite a bit in broadcasting and marketing, as well as kind of building your own brand as well. So, if you don't mind, maybe sharing just a little bit about who you are and your background, and what you've done so far as well.
So the title of my business expert authority coach is pretty much the umbrella of all of the stuff that I've learned over the many decades. So I was lucky enough, I was very blessed to have an incredible opportunity with America Online back in the day. You're too young to probably remember America Online, but back in the day we did not have Facebook, we did not have TikTok. We didn't have any of those things. We had America Online, and it was it, and and it was a great platform for me to get started. Wrote for an entertainment column. It was called the Daily Fix, and I wrote through a cartoon character. Actually, funny enough, not through Christine Blosdale, but through this cartoon character. And I was so lucky. I got to go to all the premieres, the press junkets, the screenings. I got to interview some amazing celebrities and directors, producers. And so I honed in my craft on knowing what people really wanted. And my audience was not like a really targeted niche. It was, 8-year olds to 80. So I went around, basically I had to appeal to 8-year olds to 80-year olds. And in doing that, when you have to sort of connect with an audience, it's quite wide like that. You find different ways of communicating, and it was all through written. It was not videos, it wasn't TikTok reels or anything like that. It was just all written content. So I sort of honed in my craft on, I call it now the Shrekified effect. If you've seen Shrek movies, you understand that kids enjoy them and adults enjoy them as well. And so I wrote in that sort of style so that it would appeal to a wide audience. And then I worked again for Microsoft or MSN back in the day, and then I slowly moved myself into broadcasting, and it was just a fluke, really. It was like I really appreciated this radio station that I was listening to in Los Angeles. I went in one day with gratefulness in my heart, and I just said, I want to say thank you to everybody that works here at the station. And the guy at the front desk was like, "Really? You don't want to complain? You're here to you're here to say something nice?" I said, "Of course." And so I walked in one day and just with that gratefulness in my heart, I just said, "Thank you so much for the work you do." They said, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I write for America Online as a cartoon character." And they're like, "Oh, interesting. Well, if you ever want to volunteer, you're more than welcome to come in and volunteer your time here." And so I did. And one thing happened, you know how that happens. You get in and somebody's leaving and they have a position open, and I just was so excited about broadcasting and audio, the art of audio, that I took to it, became a producer, eventually got the opportunity to be on air, to have that microphone and the headphones on, and I fell in love. I That on air light went on, and I just it was something magic because I could communicate with an audience. I didn't see them, I couldn't hear them, but we connected. It was just a beautiful experience. So I did that for 20 years as a producer. and host. And I've had all kinds of pitches. I've had people say, write me and say, I want to be on the program. I want to be on the show, which I'm sure you get as a host of a podcast. You get people saying, put me on your show. And you're like, no. I, I want I want to have something good for my audience. So I've seen every kind of pitch, and that sort of has set me up so that I can coach my clients on how to communicate their expert authority to get booked on podcast shows, to have their own show, to get quoted in magazines, to be featured in articles and things like that, and to really work on their branding and their messaging. I'm one of those people that can take a look at somebody's, if they're a real estate agent or if they're an author or a coach, and say, here are some jewels that you have that we want to showcase to establish your expert authority and get you more clients.
Yeah, that's really unique, your background, because you started from like more of a written form of communication and then moved into broadcasting, right? Which is kind of like almost not necessarily the opposite, but it's almost like a completely different medium of communicating with other people. So
Yeah.
it's quite unique that you were able to kind of hone in communication skill sets in order to not just brand yourself, but also help others create their branding as well. So do you see a lot of, I guess, similarities between the two as far as, a written medium as well as a audio medium, and now, even moving into more video as well? Like, what are some of the similarities across all three when it comes to communicating your value proposition, and what are some things that maybe separate one,
Mm.
from the others that make it, maybe even a more effective way of communicating and branding yourself?
Yeah, we have so many tools available to us. Back in the day, 20 years ago, we didn't. We had very few. And if you wanted to get the word out, there was you had to have a marketing budget that was insane to get advertising, and it was advertorial. You knew you were being sold to. Now we can create content in so many different ways. We can write those books, we can create those blogs, we can host our own podcast shows, we can be a guest on podcast shows. But most importantly, right now, what's really connecting with people are those videos, right? And I follow some people on TikTok. TikTok's my favorite platform. I just love it, um, because it's becoming a platform that is really where people are getting their information, their news now. People are going away from television news and radio, and they're going to TikTok to actually get information about, if there's a hurricane about to hit, people go to TikTok now because they're getting more information than if they tried to tune in to their local, news channel, which is very unusual, but it's something that's happening right now. It's also a great platform for very talented people. And I follow, we've all seen that there's, that agent that that goes through a house and is doing this really funny bit. I mean, the stuff that comes out of her mouth, you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is a real estate agent who's saying these things, while walking through this, $3 million, $4 million house. And and you because of her personality, she can do that. And now she's getting opportunities galore. Not only a whole bunch of followers, but now she's written her pathway into whatever she wants to touch. She can do really well. Now that's not every agent, obviously, but it's all based on your personality and your skill set. So we just like to take those gems again that you have and find the perfect platform. It might be a blend. It might be writing that book or that guide, to help people if they're in the process of buying a property, or if they're in the process of selling their property, how we can connect with them. We can connect them with them through the written word, through audio, through like podcasting, and of course video, which is king right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you mentioned something that's pretty important, which is now I think a lot of individuals are now on the same playing field that in the past you would have to have a lot of money, a lot of
Mm.
resources in order to actually get in front of that many people, that many eyeballs. Now, with social media, with all these different tools and platforms that are out there, we can take advantage of that whatever way that we want to, right? Whether if that's us being comfortable on video, if that's podcasting, right, through voice and audio, or like you mentioned, blogging, right, through written as well. So now we have the opportunity and the ability to actually put ourselves out there, which kind of, moves into my question about branding for real estate agents, right? Because there's a lot of agents out there who either want to use social media and online marketing or are using online marketing, posting content, right? But they're not necessarily getting any results from it. They're not getting clients from it. They're not getting any, no notice. They're not getting any attention. What are you seeing as far as, successful entrepreneurs, successful agents who have a brand that people recognize right away and they're actually generating clients from them versus the ones who are just kind of making noise and, almost in a way wasting their time?
Well, I find it's the ones that take that little creative leap. And when it comes to and you can look at your own feed, on if it's Instagram, Facebook, or a TikTok or LinkedIn, is that the standalone photo of the house and then all of the information about that property. um it will get some interest and things like that, but it's really those videos where we see not only the property and how beautiful it is and all the great selling points, but when we actually get to be with the agent, and that agent is communicating, they're talking, you get to look into their eyes. The whole thing, it doesn't matter if you're a coach or if you're a real estate agent. It You really want to develop that authenticity and that trust factor, because we're talking about people's largest asset for the most part that they have. They're very much invested, right? And either if they're purchasing a property or if they're selling a property, we're talking about um, it's a sensitive subject for some people, and they need to trust you. And they need to make sure that you're honest. And agents can have a bad reputation, just like used car salesmen. And so we want to rise above that. And in order to do that, we need to establish that we are an expert, we are professionals, but also to add your personality in there. And I think that authenticity is really being rewarded now. Uh, we see, the idea of being perfect, this concept of the lifestyles of the rich and famous. That's all good, and there is a niche for that. We're talking the mega millions of properties. There's that genre, but then there's that ability to connect with people, and I think we see that happening in the outside world. We see politics; it's all crumbling. We see the entertainment industry and celebrities and singers. It's all crumbling, and that real authentic connection is being rewarded. So, however you can inject in your content who you are, your personality, I think that's something that's going to be relied on a lot more from content creators across the fields. In other words, whatever it is that you're doing, if you can put that authenticity out there and be likable, then people are going to resonate with you and trust you.
Right. And there's a lot of agents out there who are not putting themselves out there, right? Maybe they're running a page where it's like their logo, which is like a silhouette of a house, and then like a brand name or something like that. And that's their entire social media page. So what you're saying is you need to put yourself out there. It can't just be photos of houses, stock videos. It has to be you, right? You have to be out there talking, showcasing who you are, not like this kind of, arbitrary brand that you're trying to hide behind.
And it depends on a lot of times. It depends on, if you're an agent working for a company that's already an established franchise, a big name. We won't drop any names, but you know them. Then sometimes you're restricted. Many times you're restricted about representing their brand. And then you have those agents that have their own real estate business. And like I have one client who not only is, she's brilliant in the real estate world, but her whole thing is she communicates with her audience on social media about how she is as an owner, as a business owner, and how she allows her agents to work from home, because she finds that that's where they get really creative and they're able to accomplish so much. But then she says, she shows the office space, and she goes, but if somebody wants to bring a client into a professional setting, we have this beautiful office space and it's like gorgeous. And so automatically she's telling you that she has a real estate agency. She's telling you that she's got all these wonderful agents that work underneath that umbrella, but then that she's progressive and she's allowing them to work wherever they feel most supported, but also where they can really fly. And then when she's showing the different spaces, at the office, they're gorgeous. They're just stunning. And so again, that expert authority is up, and it's like they're successful. She's so successful that she trusts the people that she works with and that she hires. So there's different ways of creating that content that are just going to appeal to the audience and go, you know what? You're a progressive, you're a good manager, leader. I'm going to put my business with you because I trust you. And so we can do that in a lot of different ways. But video is so important. I cannot tell you how important it is. And you don't have to have a completely professional setup. You can even be in your car and having a lunch break, and just there's information or education that you want to tell your audience. Hey, now is a great time to buy because XYZ, right? Or if you're thinking about selling your home, here are 5 tips or 3 things that you can do to increase the value of your home. And this is what I've seen time and time again with all my clients. Here's the top 3 things you can do today to increase the value of your home, and they're all easy peasy. That's that's gold. People want to hear that because they want to get the most out of their home.
Yeah, and I like that fact that you mentioned that you don't have to have, a super professional setup, or the fact that, you don't have to be in a studio setting to film these super well produced videos. It's really just about putting yourself out there, right? So you could, like you said, you could be in your car, I've seen a lot of agents build their brands just filming videos outside, like walking their neighborhood, walking their streets, and it's very authentic. It doesn't take, an entire content team behind them to edit and produce these videos. They can film it from their phones, right? And then they're posting these immediately, and they're drawing attention from, from their videos, right? So it's something that anybody can do, but you just kind of have to put yourself out there and overcome that fear, if you will, of being on video, which I'm sure a lot of people, especially agents, have these days.
Well, and everybody, and a lot of the clients that I work with, because they're from all different aspects, right? I have some real estate agents, I've got coaches, I have authors, I have people that are extremely talented, really gifted. They know their craft, they know their business, but then they suffer from imposter syndrome. And if you have imposter syndrome, it doesn't matter how many degrees you have on the wall or how much money you have in the bank. Imposter syndrome can come up and creep up at the worst time. And that is worrying about what people are going to think. Who am I to who am I to give this advice? What are people going to say about me? Oh my gosh, I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm too this, I'm too that. Kobe, I cannot tell you how many dreams and businesses have not flourished because of those negative stories that we have in our heads. And it could be something that somebody said to you on a playground when you were 5 years old, you know, or a parent or an authority figure that they said a long, long time ago. And you thought that you were over that, or you don't even remember that, but it comes up, and it comes up under stress sometimes, right? When we're asked to step into something we're uncomfortable with. I don't know if I can do that. Well, you don't know until you try. And the fear of failing is something that holds people back. And I say there's no such thing as failing. I've I've flubbed up and I've made mistakes throughout my entire life. But that's how I learn, right? In order for me to really learn my craft and to be successful, I've had to try things and maybe try things and it didn't work out. So then I have to figure out why did it not work out? Let me try this. Oh, okay. So it's okay to, mess up. And as a matter of fact, if you're shooting video and you've got some crazy moments in there where there's some really major flubs, turn it into a blooper reel. Everybody loves to see the imperfection of, when somebody kind of, messes up, because that means you're human, right? And it's not about selling that house. It's actually about showing that you're a human being and you have a sense of humor, right? So it's okay to show those sides. Again, it depends on the personality and the agent, of course. But I do love those. I watch those kind of things all the time myself.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do, and I think that's the funny part is that we're always like drawn towards blooper reels, right? Like at the end of movies, we always love the
Yeah,
blooper reels that
yeah.
the credit scenes and different things like that. But then it's like when it's our turn to film videos, like we're so self-conscious, we don't want that ever out there. We don't want anybody seeing it ever, right? Because, like you said, I think a lot of times it is subconscious, right? It's things that were said to us when we were children, when we were, before we could really understand, consciously how, damaging these comments were about us, right? Whether if it's from a friend or like you mentioned, like a parent or an authority figure, these subconscious things, they do come up, right? When it's time for us to get on video. And I've seen this too with very successful agents, people who are consummate professionals in their fields who have absolutely the authority to be able to talk about what it is that they want to talk about on a podcast, and then when it's time for them to actually be a guest and show up, it there's excuses, right? They don't want to do
Right.
it anymore. So it's interesting these fears come up, and my biggest question
Mhm.
for you is just where do you how do you think we can overcome that, right? Because it's one thing to understand, but I would love to maybe get your take on how are you helping others overcome this fear so that way
Yes. Yeah.
they are able to take that first step. Because once we take that first step, it starts getting a little bit easier from there.
Yeah, I so the with my clients who and I have a lot of clients who have that imposter syndrome or those fears. And what I do, number one, the very first thing that I do, and it's a good experiment, that a strategy is I'll create for them a media kit. And a media kit is much like, I guess you would say, kind of like a listing. Like if you've got a house and you have a listing kit, right, for that. But for the agent or for the client, for the coach, we would create a media kit. And the media kit is basically, it's not even so much about getting it out and handing it out to people. It's really for the person themselves to remember how accomplished they are, because sometimes with the day to day, with agents too, it's like being interviewed, by it's like meeting new people and being interviewed for a job and getting, a lot of no's, and that can be difficult to handle. So sometimes we need to be reminded of our accolades, the awards that we've achieved, the milestones that we've achieved. So that's one of the first things I do with my clients is we create that media kit with a awesome headshot, a professional photo, and especially for agents, a professional photo, a really good photo, and photos. If you're able to get more than one, that's really great. But that professional headshot can open doors for you. It's very powerful. We're visual creatures, so having that magnifying draw of a good photo is important. So that's also going to go in the media kit. The second thing that we do is we actually address the imposter syndrome. And what I do is with my clients is I say, we're not, first of all, it's not about you. And they go, what are you talking about? Because I'm trying to market my business and get out there and be noticed. And you're saying now it's not about me. And I say, okay, well, it is and it isn't. It's actually about the people that you serve. It is about always, it's about the client. Okay. It's about the client, the customer. It's about your audience. It's not so much about you. And when you take the focus off of how you look, how you're going to be perceived, what people are going to think about you, and you focus on the audience that you say that you want to serve, right? When you focus on them and how they're going to benefit from your wisdom, your skill sets, how they're going to be able to retire and have an amazing, retirement because of how you were able to get, such a great top dollar for the property. You made it smooth, you made it fun and enjoyable, whatever. That's what you want to focus in on, and not so much how you're going to be perceived, because we stop ourselves every single time when we say, "Oh, I can't do that because people are going to say this about me or that about me." So when you get rid of that and you focus on your clients, actually, it takes the pressure off. Is it something that you'll never experience again? That imposter? No, it might creep up, but then you get reminded again. For me, if I don't show up, my clients don't benefit. They don't get to succeed in their business the way that they can if I'm here and I show up for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does because, the more people you're able to reach, the more you are able to actually inspire with your story, with your authenticity as well. Because somebody might, you never know, right? Somebody might see a video that you've done and they recognize maybe something in you or in your story, in your background, and they say, "Oh, well, I have a similar background. I always had doubts myself, and I'm seeing, Christine go out there, be successful in this field. I think I can do this as well, right?" And so you're not
Yeah.
inspiring other people to do the same thing. So you never know how many people you're going to inspire out there. And I do like what you said about focusing on your clients because a lot of people they do think that they have to kind of be the center of attention. They have to be almost like the hero of the story. But from what I've heard, the best marketers don't make themselves the heroes. They make their clients the true heroes of the story.
Exactly, exactly, and it is an individual on an individual basis too, depending on the personality, of the agent as well. Some people are more comfortable, of course, being on camera, being creating videos. For those that are not comfortable with it, I work with people of all different skill sets to get them more comfortable. And that's the thing is that you're going to reach more people by creating those videos. It's just how it is right now. We want to see people, we want to see who they are, and we want to be able to trust that person. So we want to be able to see their eyes, how they light up when they're talking, how they're passionate about things. It's really important to show up for that. So there's ways to get around that, and there's ways to make people feel more comfortable being on video. But that'd be more than just me talking to you on this podcast show. We would have to have a couple we would have to have a couple episodes together to talk about all that.
Right, absolutely. But I think, it is important, right, to put your, especially I think these days with, I know we haven't talked about it yet, but with AI and all of this AI generated content and AI generated marketing, right? It's even more important now for you to be yourself and to be you in these videos instead of trying to create something where, maybe, I mean, even now AI could probably create something that is, much more pristine or much more, with much less mistakes, right? From something that you
Yeah.
can generate, on a tool versus when you go out there as you, the mistakes, everything that's, connecting with the audience rather than just a video that's made professionally, but really has no connection whatsoever.
Yes, that lack of humanness is felt. I gave a presentation to local tourism businesses last night, and we were talking about different AI tools that we can use. And I encourage people to use AI tools to use them to help the content that you've already created. I do not like the idea of allowing it to create the content for you, but really taking the stuff that you've got and making it better, right? So I can write something, a piece from, a marketing piece, and I can ask my AI agent, ChatGPT, Charlie, I call him Charlie. I can ask them to improve it based on, this is my audience, this is who I want to appeal to, using my voice and how I communicate. Can you make this a bit better? Can you target that audience? And it now knows me because I've used it for so many, for so long. But there's all these tools that we can use. So, there's you can especially like right now, because it's important to try different mediums. you can take the things that you've recorded, even, videos or webinars or lunch and learns, and turn them into a book or a guide. Have it be a lead magnet. If you have a guide, the the top 10, the 10 things you need to do right now to get the most for your home, and you have that as a lead magnet, as a free guide, every single video that you do, say, make sure you click the link in my bio and get the free guide. I want to help you get the most for your home, and these are easy things that you can do to get that value for your home. Those type of things are wonderful because they bring people into your world. They're warm leads. They're people that are obviously thinking about selling their home, and it's a way for you to establish your expert authority because you've written it. Now you can use those AI tools to help you. Like, what are some things, some ideas, but don't allow it to write everything for you, because also we know when it's written by AI. There's certain things that, for the longest time, my bio, I was asking, create my bio, help my bio. And it was calling me the world renowned Christine Blosdale. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a little over the top, don't you think? So there are some words that when you see them, you're like, that's AI. And we don't want that. We want it to seem that like actually you created that. But there's other tools. There's so many different things that you can use for presentations. I love Gamma.ai. Gamma is a program that, if you thought Canva was cool when it comes to doing presentations, Gamma is amazing. It's just stunning. And just, you can look it up. GAMMA, gamma.ai is fabulous for doing presentations. So you could do listing presentations with it if you wanted. And oh God, there's so many different tools that you can use. I'm every day I'm exploring new things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Opus, you could create clips, you can create viral video clips. The thing that I want to tell you is, for those that are listening and they're like, I'm gonna start doing the videos now. It helps to have a really good microphone. If you have a phone that doesn't have the best mic, you can get a little button mic. They're like $100 now, super cheap. You can get a little button microphone so that you can sound really good and clear, or put it on your shirt so you're always mic'd, that people can hear you clearly. And then the other thing is to put captions. If the app that you're putting it in has a caption maker, utilize that, because a lot of us, me included, are in the middle of the night scrolling, and we have the volume off. We do not have it up. So if you're talking in your video and there's no caption, I don't know what you're saying. So make sure that if you're doing those videos, to have the captions underneath. That way, people at any time of day or night can actually watch your videos and know what you're talking about. So that's just a real quick tip.
That's a great tip because people don't think too much about it, but it's absolutely correct, right? If you think about when you're scrolling, right? It doesn't have to be, in the middle of the night. It could be you just, are in a public place, right? And you don't want your audio to be blasting everywhere, but maybe you're in a
Yeah.
library or in a coffee shop, right? So you're just kind of scrolling a little bit. You need to, know what the other person is saying in the videos, and there's no caption. People scroll right past it, right? If unless they're in a position where they can turn the audio on. So that's actually a really good tip to make
It
sure
also
that all
helps
of
the algorithm. And it helps the algorithm because the algorithm it's got the words, the keywords, and put those keywords in your videos, that are hot searchable terms. But yeah, it helps on a lot of different levels. And it looks professional.
Yeah, no, it just looks like a video that would would attract attention. It looks like a TikTok video or a real video, right? When you see those captions
Hmm.
pop up rather than not. So yeah, no, that's absolutely great. And I think I wanted to talk a little bit more about podcasting with you as well, right? So you've been in radio traditionally, and now obviously you're hosting a podcast that's actually won awards as well. So, when it comes to starting a podcasting, do you suggest people just go out there and start their own podcast as a host right away? Or should they be guesting on a few shows first before trying to start their own show?
It completely depends upon that person, their personality. I have some clients that I'm like, oh my God, you're perfect. You're set up. You're ready. You got the gift of gab and you have all this wisdom, right? Or you're really funny. You need to host your own podcast. And it's a great marketing tool because it can be promoting your business. Just don't make it infomercially. Don't be too salesy, but be educational, informational, motivational, inspirational, or entertaining. Okay? Any one of those things. So some people, their personality and their commitment, I say, let's create a podcast for you. And I actually show them how to do it, like everything from legal aspect, theme music, cover art, style, how to record, how to edit, how to publish, how to market, right? So that's something that we do together. And I love that. But then there are other people that I'm like, no, this is not your uh, your platform because they don't have the ability to do it. They're not going to be committed to it. They're uncomfortable hosting, and so then I say, let's establish your expert authority, but let's get you booked as a guest on podcasts. And when we work on that, again, we're creating that media kit so that you can send that to the show host. But we need a hook. We need an angle. We need a pitch. And some people just go, well, I just want to be on, have me on your show. I need to be on your podcast. Okay, well, why would I want to have you on the podcast? And you don't want to just tell people, I want to be on your show because I am an award-winning agent. I've sold X amount of dollars, the last 3 years, blah, blah, blah. That's not interesting. You want to have a pitch where I want to be on your show because your audience is going to learn right? Blah, blah, blah. Your audience is going to leave after listening to that episode insanely motivated, or they're going to feel better about this or that, or they're going to become educated on the things that are coming down the road, interest rates or whatever. So you need to make it about the audience. Again, it's not about you and how great you are, it's about the audience. Let your media kit show how amazing you are. But when you're pitching somebody to be on their show, and I love doing this with clients, is we get them booked on shows that are perfect for them. You don't want to just throw spaghetti on the wall and say, I'll be on anybody's show. You want to utilize your time, correctly and start building up the programs that you've been on, the podcasts that you've been on. Repurpose that content. Use those interviews as, blogs and all kinds of stuff. There's so many things you can do with that.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about podcasts too, is that when you have this, usually about, 30 to maybe 60 minutes of content in an interview setting, you now have the ability to turn that content into shorter videos, into clips, into reels, into blogs, right? So now you have, spent this time creating this content and you can repurpose it for, different platforms. And I think that's where the true magic of podcasting comes in as well, is because you now do have this different mediums now to distribute that content, rather than trying to create something one at a time, which for agents who are out there closing transactions, it could be quite a bit time consuming as well.
You're busy. I know. My wife's an agent. I know how busy you are. You have no time. You have no time to eat. You're you're eating in your car. I mean, it's very full on. So the things that you can do to make it easy and quick, that's why I recommend, like with my clients, if they're being a podcast guest, there's a couple things. You can use something called video to blog, where you take the video, the YouTube video of your appearance, you throw it into this system, and it's free to use, video to blog. You throw it in there, and it creates an article, a blog, a listicle, a summary. You could do it in first person, second person, third person, and you can take what you say, and instead of using a transcript, which is boring to read, you can turn it into an interesting article. All right, and you can create content that way. You can also create modules in a course, or create your lead magnet that you want, your guide, those type of things. Another thing you can do is, once you start getting a few podcast guesting opportunities, is go to your Spotify and create a playlist. And that playlist is going to be all of your interviews that you were featured on, all of the podcast shows. And the bigger, the more popular, the bigger podcasts that you've been a guest on, move them to the top. And you'll see on I have a playlist that's in my media kit, my Spotify playlist. I've got over 35 interviews. So if somebody wanted to actually take a marathon and listen to all of the shows that I've been on, they can go to my playlist and they can, look at all those different things. But there's a way for it to be there so you can again establish your expert authority. I've been on 35 shows. Some of them have been really big podcast shows, and it just brings up your level of authority.
Yep, absolutely. So those are some great tips. And Christina, I just want to say thank you for taking some time and joining us on the podcast today and sharing your expert authority and your value with us. So for our audience out there, if they want to learn a little bit more about what you do, if they want to maybe get in contact with you and potentially work with you as their expert authority coach, what are some of the best ways for people to actually get in contact with you?
Yes, the best way is to go right to my website, which is expertauthoritycoach.com. There they can book a discovery call with me. We sit down for 20 to 30 minutes and find out what the best route is for you, which platform, what type of media is going to be the best way for you to really get the word out about your business. So that's the best way to do it. And that's at expertauthoritycoach.com. And what I would love to do, and I will give you the link for this, Kobe, so you can put it in your show notes. I would also love to gift your audience because I think this is perfect for them. My latest book, which is a bestseller, they'll get the Kindle version or the PDF version. So there's clickable links to all of the resources, and it's called the Social Media and Branding Survival Guide. Digital marketing so irresistible, even your ex will want to follow you. It's done in that very playful manner. It's written in a very playful tone, so it's an easy, fun read. It's not huge, it's not massive. It's just enough so that you can get some tips, and more tips and strategies that I use are included in that book, and they can just click on the links to go to those different resources.
Yep, absolutely. We'll make sure to leave the links to both your website as well as the link to the free gift that you were generous enough to
Yeah.
share with our audience in the description and the show notes down below. But other than that, Christine, just want to say thank you again for being on the show. And before we let you go, did you have any last pieces of advice, any last golden nuggets you want to leave with the audience?
Yes, I do. I say this because it's on every single page on my website. If they scroll to the very bottom of every page in my website, it says this, and this is the mantra that I tell all of my clients. It's remember this. If you're not seen and heard, you're not hired. Let that sink in. If you're not seen and heard, you're not hired. Get out of the basement, get out of that imposter syndrome, start creating content, start speaking, start being seen, and then you will be hired. Because if not, nobody knows that you're there. So I encourage everybody just to think about that a little bit and start creating that content. You never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. That's some great advice, Christine. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you in the next show. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, Kobe.